Late last night, the Angry Orange posted, "Why does ABC Fake News keep Jimmy Kimmel, a man with no talent and very poor television ratings, on the air? Put up with it. Also, totally biased coverage. Get the bum off the air."
Trump's midnight tweet storm targeting Jimmy Kimmel reveals the president's most essential characteristic, a man so thin-skinned that he watches late-night comedy like a hawk monitoring a rival's territory. The timestamp tells the whole story. 11 minutes after Kimmel's show ended on the East Coast, Trump was rage-posting from what Kimmel calls the toilet, demanding ABC fire, a comedian whose crime was making jokes about the president. This is Trump's reality distortion field at maximum power. A man sitting in the White House, surrounded by nuclear codes and intelligence briefings, chooses to spend his midnight hours hate-watching a late-night comedy show and then immediately screaming into the digital void about it. The psychology here is breathtaking. Trump doesn't just want compliance, demands worship. And when he doesn't get it, he wants you erased.
Lost count now of how many times the president has demanded I be pulled off the air. I mean, talk about a snowflake, this guy. Every 5 weeks, he flips out and wants me fired.
Kimmel has identified Trump's signature pattern, the cyclical meltdown, every 5 weeks. Like clockwork. Trump remembers that someone somewhere is making fun of him, and his entire psychological infrastructure collapses. This is a man who ran on the platform of telling it like it is and not being politically correct. Yet he cannot tolerate a single joke at his expense without launching a campaign to destroy the joker's livelihood. The irony is so thick you could use it to build the wall he never finished. Trump positions himself as the ultimate alpha, the strongman who bows to nobody. Yet his behavior reveals a man made entirely of exposed nerve endings. Every slight registers as a mortal wound. Every joke becomes an existential threat. Trump has transformed the American presidency into the world's most expensive therapy session, except the patient refuses to acknowledge he needs help.
If you got this many threats from a neighbor, you'd have no problem getting a restraining order. The judge would be like, "Yeah, sounds like the guy's nuts." Boom. It's disturbing.
The restraining order comparison cuts to the bone because it's accurate. If anyone else engaged in Trump's pattern of behavior, harassing someone repeatedly, demanding they be fired over and over, making threats about their employment, we'd recognize it as obsessive harassment. But because Trump occupies the Oval Office, his stalker-adjacent behavior gets normalized as the president being frank and honest. This is where Trump's entire con game operates. He's weaponized the presidency to legitimize what would otherwise be recognized as unhinged behavior. A private citizen repeatedly demanding someone lose their job would be laughed out of HR. A president doing it becomes a news cycle. Trump has figured out that the office itself provides a reality distortion field so powerful that people forget to ask the obvious question, why is the President of the United States obsessed with what a comedian says about him at 11:30 p.m.?
If you're watching tonight, which I presume you are, how about this? I'll go when you go, okay? We'll be a team. Let's ride off into the sunset together like...
Kimmel's counteroffer exposes the beautiful absurdity of Trump's position. The president wants Kimmel fired. But Kimmel knows Trump will never stop watching. Trump is trapped in a parasitic relationship with his critics, needing their attention even as he demands their silence. This is Trump's tragic flaw, dressed as confidence. He cannot look away from anyone discussing him, positive or negative, because his entire sense of self depends on being the center of attention at all times. A secure person would ignore late-night comedy. A healthy ego would shrug off jokes. But Trump's ego is a black hole that requires constant feeding, and it cannot distinguish between praise and criticism. It only knows, are they talking about me? The answer must always be yes. So, Trump watches Kimmel. He watches every minute. And then he screams about what he saw, proving that he watched, proving that he cares, proving that the jokes landed exactly where they hurt.
President Trump's approval rating is tanking.
Plunging to a new low.
A new low, even among Republicans.
That's the lowest level of his second term.
Here's where Trump's obsession with Kimmel's bad ratings becomes darkly comedic. Trump projects his own failures onto his targets with the precision of an IMAX projector. The man whose approval ratings are cratering lectures, a late-night host about television ratings, the president whose numbers keep dropping, somehow has the audacity to claim someone else has the bad ratings problem. This is Trump's psychological defense mechanism on full display when reality becomes too painful to acknowledge. Simply invent a new reality where you're winning and everyone else is losing. It doesn't matter that Kimmel's show is successful enough to keep airing. It doesn't matter that Trump's approval numbers are factually, measurably terrible. What matters is Trump's narrative. And in Trump's narrative, he's always the winner. Always the most popular. Always the one with the best numbers. The cognitive dissonance required to maintain this delusion could power a small nation.
He has his minions at the FCC now launching what they call a review of the relationship between TV affiliates and the TV networks, no doubt because of what happened last time they tried to strangle me. He's threatening ABC News.
Trump doesn't just want to complain about comedians. He wants to use the machinery of government to silence them. This is where Trump's authoritarian impulses slide into view wearing the mask of media criticism. When jokes hurt Trump's feelings, he doesn't just tweet about it anymore. He deploys federal agencies to investigate the networks that air those jokes. He coordinates with billionaire allies to buy media companies and fire hosts he doesn't like. Trump has transformed criticism into a national security issue in his mind, where dissent equals disloyalty equals a threat that must be eliminated. The FCC review isn't about broadcast standards. It's about Trump using every lever of power available to punish anyone who makes him look bad. This is dictatorship 101, dressed up in bureaucratic language. When you cannot win the argument, you silence the opponent. When you cannot handle the jokes, you destroy the joker.
That Trump's billionaire buddy Larry Ellison and his son David Ellison, who are the biggest stockholders in Paramount and are now competing to buy CNN. The Guardian reported that Larry Ellison had a call with the White House during which they engaged in dialogue.
The coordination reveals Trump's entire media strategy, a choose-your-own news anchor situation where only Trump-approved voices get airtime. He's not content with Fox News and Newsmax already functioning as state television. Trump wants every channel to be Trump TV. Every host to be a Trump loyalist. Every story to be Trump propaganda. This is the logical endpoint of Trump's worldview, where the only legitimate speech is speech that praises Trump, and everything else is fake news that must be eradicated. The president is literally coordinating with billionaires to buy media companies and fire journalists he doesn't like. This isn't draining the swamp. This is building an oligarchy where wealth and political power merge to control information. Trump wants to be both president and programming director, deciding not just policy, but who gets to comment on that policy. It's authoritarianism with a corporate face. And Trump is the CEO of American fascism light.
This is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up.
When Trump doesn't get his way, he escalates from fire them to lock them up to execute them with the casualness of someone ordering lunch. 6 Democratic lawmakers criticized him, and Trump's response was to accuse them of sedition punishable by death. This is Trump operating without guardrails, where any opposition becomes treason and any criticism becomes a capital crime. The scariest part isn't that Trump says these things. It's that his supporters cheer for them. Trump has normalized the idea that political opponents aren't just wrong. They're enemies who deserve imprisonment or worse. This is how democracies die, not with sudden coups, but with gradual erosion, where the leader convinces his followers that the other side isn't just mistaken but malicious. Not just opponents, but traitors. Trump has spent years building this narrative, and now he's pushing it to its logical extreme. Disagree with Trump, you're seditious. Criticize Trump, you're a traitor. Make jokes about Trump, you should be fired. Silenced. Destroyed.
Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No.
Okay,
Karoline Leavitt's response deserves its own comedy special. Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress? No. This is the bar we've reached. White House press secretaries now have to clarify that the president doesn't actually want to murder elected officials after he tweets that they should face the death penalty. The normalization of Trump's extremism happens in moments like this. Leavitt has to defend the indefensible, so she doesn't defend it at all. She just moves on. No, he doesn't want to execute Congress. Next question. As if tweeting about executing your political opponents is just Trump being Trump. Just Trump being frank and honest. Just Trump saying what he really thinks. The fact that we need clarification about whether the president wants to kill members of Congress should be the headline. Instead, it's Tuesday.
With everyone in this room, you've all seen it yourself?
Trump's spokesniece has turned frank and honest into a magic spell that transforms cruelty into virtue. When Trump calls someone Piggy, that's not bullying. It's frankness. When Trump demands journalists be fired, that's not authoritarianism. It's honesty. The linguistic gymnastics required to defend Trump have created a new vocabulary where insults become straight talk and threats become transparency. Leavitt said the word frank so many times you'd think she was being sponsored by a hot dog company. But this is the Trump defender's eternal challenge. How do you make the indefensible sound reasonable? You reframe it. You don't defend calling someone a pig. You celebrate the president's directness. You don't address the cruelty. You praise the authenticity. It's a masterclass in gaslighting, where the problem isn't Trump's behavior, but everyone else's inability to appreciate his special brand of honesty. Trump has transformed the presidency into performance art, where the performance never ends and the art is questionable at best. Every tweet is a cry for attention. Every attack is a defense of his fragile ego. Every demand that someone be fired reveals a man who cannot tolerate existing in a world where people are allowed to mock him. The president watches late-night television like a teenager monitoring their ex's social media, obsessively checking what people say about him, immediately responding to every slight, demanding that the world reshape itself around his feelings. This is what happens when you give unlimited power to someone with unlimited insecurity. Trump doesn't just want to be president. He wants to be the only person anyone talks about, the only subject anyone discusses, the only reality anyone acknowledges. And when that doesn't happen, when a comedian makes jokes or a news network criticizes him or a politician disagrees with him, Trump doesn't just push back. He declares war. He demands they be fired, silenced, imprisoned, or worse. This is Trump's America, a place where the president's ego is the most important thing in the world. And anyone who challenges that becomes an enemy of the state. The show never ends because Trump never stops performing. And we're all trapped in the audience of a one-man show that doubles as a constitutional crisis.